welcome back. It's part 2. As I was saying, I just split the video in half because I filmed the whole thing in one chunk and it was 47 minutes. I'm like, that is not gonna work. These people do not care that much about me. So if you are new to my channel, my name is Hannah. I am going to my 3rd year teaching high school science, and on my Instagram I asked, what are some of your first year teacher questions? And this is part 2 of me answering those questions. So let's hop right into it. How do you plan your units? Basically, I get the textbook for whatever class I'm teaching, open up the chapter that we're supposed to be on, I count out the number of days that we have to do it, and then I divide the chapter's information up into those number of days, and I go from there. It's actually pretty straightforward. It feels really overwhelming when you first start, but don't worry, it's easy. And like I said, I do 1 week at a time, but I always know how many days. So I'm like, oh, mitosis, I have 13 school days to teach us. I don't know if that's true, but you go from there. Okay, hardest classroom management issue you dealt with and how you handled it. Oh, it's so hard because I feel like some of these situations are like never situations you guys should be put in. So basically, I had this one student, when they entered my classroom at the start of their 10th grade year, they had 75 behavioral referrals. I'm not even kidding. It might have been 78. Like 75 was the absolute minimum that it was. And so at my school, a behavioral referral was like they visited the dean or they got suspension. It wasn't like, oh, detention. Like it was bad. And this student, what's the hardest to me with a behavior management issue is a student that's riding the cusp of being bad, but not bad enough to send them away, but their goal is to be disruptive. And that's what the student was. So they would ride this line the entire year of being just disruptive enough that it was getting your attention and it was getting all their classmates' attention, but it wasn't enough to send them to the dean or the principal because they'd be like, Miss Healy, no, keep the kid down there. So for that one, I worked really, really hard on building a student-teacher relationship, and I still think about that student all the time because now they really do hold a very special place in my heart, but I miss them. But that child was literally the reason I almost didn't switch schools because I was just so worried about them. But yeah, basically I worked really hard to build a relationship with that student. You know, when they would do call out and want the attention and be disruptive, I basically had to figure out, how do I stop them from doing this without getting the whole class's attention, because that's what they want. So honestly, I changed their seat to be next to me at my desk. And so this way they felt special and they got to be sitting next to me and they had my full attention. Well, they had 50% of my attention. The rest of the class had the other 50%. And I'd give them little jobs to do. So basically I was giving them attention, but I slowly learned only to reward good behaviors with attention, and their bad behaviors you can't ignore because you're a teacher, but you have to correct it in a way that doesn't call attention to it, because that's what they want. Like you have to just look at them and be like, stop, or no, in a very discreet way. Don't yell, that's what they want. What's the best way to create a lecture? So what I personally do is when my students walk in, they have a 3-question bell ringer that they do in their notebooks. I did switch to Nearpod near the end of last year, which is like a virtual way to do a bell ringer. Do whatever way you feel comfortable your first year. And then we would go over the answers like as a class, like kind of talk it out. And then we would do the lecture. And this is where I would use my document camera to display my notes up on the board, and they would copy the notes into their notebooks. And I would walk around the classroom while they write their notes, and I'll talk about it. So I won't sit there on verbatim and go, blah, 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 read it. No, I walk around and be like, this is true, you know, using voice inflections, using hand movements, and talking about it. And you break up the talking about it by saying like, Shane, what do you think about this? Oh, Amy, what do you think about this? Like, build them into it. Give them an opportunity to collaborate. And that's what's worked the best for me. I keep my notes at a maximum of 15 minutes long because they're 15, so their attention span is 15 minutes. So I think. How do you deal with cell phones? Oh, I hate cell phones. What school students do right now is they put their cell phone kind of by their crotch and then close their legs, and then they'll open their legs and like text and close them, and that's kind of what they seem to do. And so basically I'll be like, oh, Sarah, would you mind getting up and grabbing something for me? And so this way it then like leaves her cell phone on her seat, like, Sarah, was your cell phone out this whole time? Oh my gosh. And then usually they feel embarrassed without me having to be like, I see your cell phone, give it to me. Ugh. How else do I deal with cell phones? I will if it's a shyer student who I know that like kind of joking thing they won't like, I'll just go up to them and be like, hey, you know what, Jonah, would you mind putting your cell phone away from me? It's really disrespectful. Like, you don't see me walking around with my cell phone. Or if you have a kid who kind of gives you grief about it, I'll try and like approach it in a very like understandable way. Like, hey, can you put your cell phone away? Because when you're on your cell phone, your full attention isn't here. And if your full attention here isn't in the classroom, then honestly, you might fail the quiz, and neither of us want that, because then we got to call home. So it just depends who the student is. Does your school county give you workshops or guidelines for content, or just the state standard? No, I've never had this. I don't know if my new district would have done this, but I had already been teaching. My first school, they literally handed me my books, and that was it. Like, truly, that was it. So I looked up my state testing, and I used like the state testing to kind of help guide me. But I mostly used their textbooks. So like the state test would cover mitosis. So then I'd find the mitosis chapter and dedicate some days to it. I look at standards last, and I just make sure that my content hits the standard. Because if you're going through the chapter, more likely than not, you're hitting the standard. How much did you use from your lessons from your first year? Oh, I said that already. It's not a lot, but that's just because of my situation. Did you feel like you knew too much or not enough of your content? My first year, I probably felt like I didn't know enough, but my second year, I felt 100% confident. Like, every year you're building it, and I'm personally someone, if I need to learn a content area, I have to study it so much. Like, so much. I mean, I have to drill over and over and over again for days. And when you're teaching, you're doing that. And I was shocked my second year how much of that information was already in my head. Someone said, how did you become a teacher if you were not an education major? Well, in the state of Florida, you can do a career change, which basically means whatever your degree was in college, you can teach in high school. So I got my degree in biology, so I could teach high school science. If I got my degree in something math, I could teach high school math. And then the state of Florida has a program that's 3 years long that just basically kind of works you through some tests. Not that fun, but it is what it is. A few college classes, again, not that fun, it is what it is. But you can figure out if your state has this, because I Googled Florida, DOE, Department of Education, career change or transition to teaching, and then hopefully your states will come up with your exact checklist of what to do. How hard is being a first year teacher? Really, really dang hard. My number one advice to you is learn to balance quickly. So balance, how much time do you want to dedicate to teaching? How much time do you want to dedicate to family? How much time are you going to dedicate outside of your contract hours to work? And go from there. It's really easy. With teaching, your work is never done. You can easily be bettering yourself 24/7. Like, if you wanted to, you could work 72 to 80 hours in a week easily and still feel behind. So, I mean, that was definitely the hardest part, was balancing. So figure out that balance. What did you do when a student asked you a question you couldn't answer, bio or not bio? Honestly, my biggest thing that I would do was just say, you know what? That's a really great question. Why don't we look that up? Or I'd say, you know what? That's a really good question. Does anyone else know the answer? So turn it around to let the class collaborate in if they would like, or allow the student to have the opportunity to find a legitimate internet resource to help answer that question. So it just depends what your style is. I think admitting that you don't know is the best thing that you can do. And I do it all the time. What do you do applying for your first job? Clothes, portfolio, everything. My job application process was kind of unique because I didn't. I did apply, but I wasn't applying as a previous teacher. I was just applying as a regular person who wanted to become a teacher. So I didn't have a portfolio. So clothes-wise, I basically wore something that I would wear if I was teaching at that district. To give you an example, my outfit is, I wore it to both interviews, a green dress that hits about 3 fingers above the knee, definitely like closed in the chest, and then with like a denim jacket. And that's been perfect. But basically, or like nice dress pants with a cute blouse. Old Navy or TJ Maxx is a great place to go to get teacher clothes. People have been telling me to start off the year really strict and ease up later. Thoughts? Yes, I agree. You'll hear stuff like, don't crack a smile till Christmas. No, you can crack a smile. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily about being strict and then easing up. It's about being clear and concise. So coming up with your rules and your expectations and holding them true no matter what, no matter how bad. If you have 10 kids on the floor screaming and crying, you stick true to that. You never waver. And so that's not so much about being strict, but it's about being consistent. Kids love consistency. So if you have the same rules day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way out throughout the entire year, your behavior management is going to get easier. So what a lot of people are saying is start strict, then ease up. They're not really easing up. It's just the kids are finally understanding what their rules are. And so now you have less work to do as a behavior management. So be consistent, be clear about your expectations, and never let those change. What do you do when you don't know the content very well? Cry face. Girl, same. Don't worry. When you are planning your lessons, you learn the content. So like, for example, what is it? Like parts of a plant I didn't know well. So when I got my book, I opened up to that chapter to do my little lesson planning. I said, okay, I have 10 school days to do this. Broke that chapter up into 10 bits. And as I'm planning my lesson, I'm learning it. So I'm like, oh, here's the notes they're going to write. So I'm writing the notes out. So I've read the chapter. I've written the notes. Maybe I'm picking a cute little 5-minute video for them to watch. Well, now I've watched multiple videos about the content area. And then I'm trying to find a worksheet, or I'm creating a worksheet. You will learn it as you go. I promise you. I'm a new high school environmental science teacher. Woo-woo! How do you prepare for non-ed majors? Honestly, I watched so many teachers on YouTube, and I can honest to goodness say that was the best thing I did for myself. And then the second best thing you can do for yourself is get a mentor teacher. Your school might assign you one if you're a non-education major. And rely on that person. Ask them lots of questions. Don't be embarrassed, because they are a wealth of information. So like my mentor teacher, I didn't realize this at the time, but she taught me so much stuff that now that I'm taking my college classes, I'm like, oh yeah, she taught me. So that's what I would say is, number one, watch a lot of teachers on YouTube. And so I teach high school science. I was watching elementary school teachers. What is this hair, y'all? Sorry, I'm like switching over to the curly girl method, and y'all are seeing it on like the worst day of hair. But I wanted to film for you. Yeah. But like honestly, I teach high school science, and I was watching elementary school teachers because the theme of small groups and behavior management consistency, it's all the same. How do you establish relationships with your teacher team when they already have relationships built? This is hard. This is really hard. I hope they're being nice to you. How do you establish relationships with your teacher team when they already have relationships already built? This is a hard one. I think the best you can do is be a kind person and, try to be as nice as you can. Try and build those relations. Like, I don't know, like make jokes with them. Go up to them. Maybe one day you're driving to work and you're going to get a Starbucks, and you could text, or maybe you're at school the day before. So maybe you're at school, it's a Thursday, and you ask one of your teacher team, be like, hey, I'm going to go to Dunkin'. Like, do you guys want me to grab a dozen? We could all share it in the morning. Or I don't know, just try little things, make little jokes, just be kind, just any way that you would make friends. Sometimes it's easier to access a group of people kind of like one at a time. So try and build a personal connection with one of them and then another, and then slowly you might be more invited into the group. Hopefully it's not kind of a catty situation, because that is horrible. Have you finished getting your professional teacher certificate with the state? No, I have one college class left and one test left. So for me, and this, you guys, this is horrendous. For me in the state of Florida, I have to take 6 college classes, 2 tests, and a mentorship program. So all I have left is 1 college class and 1 test. So I'm so close. I'm like 6 months, or basically I'm finishing this class next week, and then all I have to do is take the test. Because of the corona stuff going on, I can't take the test till October, and then I'll be done. What is your strategy for when kids bring certain dramas into the class? I tease them. And I don't mean like, so say the girls are fighting. I say, you know what? First of all, I separate them. If there's ever any drama and 2 kids have been sitting together, number one thing, I change the seating chart. But I change it for everyone. I would never be like, okay, Jody, you and Laura are going to be separated. No, because everyone then's like, oh, why are you separating just them? No, change the whole seating chart. And then the second thing is, I just don't leave space for it. Like if they ever start something, I'm like, look, we're moving on. And if you can't be a part of us all moving on in the classroom, then you're not going to be in here. And then you'll send them away. Don't let drama come into your classroom, because it won't stop. Or like if they start going, oh, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, drama llamas. No. My teacher ear is too old for this. We're moving on. Or if they're crying, I'll say, hey, I'll like whisper to them or write on a sticky note and put it on their desk. So you can go to the bathroom and cool off for a few minutes if you need. Or like, hey, you want to go visit the guidance counselor, you can. But of course, 5-minute limit. So cry, dry those tears. Maintaining personal school-life balance, decor tips. I'm a first year on the Space Coast. Woo woo. Okay, personal school-life balance, that's really hard. I feel like I really struggled with my personal life my first year teaching. I had a lot of really awesome friendships that I had formed in the years prior to starting my first year teaching. And I know this sounds so bad, but I was so consumed in teaching my first year that I let a lot of those friendships kind of fall by the wayside. And it doesn't mean that those friends weren't special at all, because I mean, they definitely were. But you have to just be honest with them and be like, look, I'm so busy, it's not even funny. I mean, it was hard. It was really, really hard. You have to actively say, like, I'm going to put this work down and take time for myself, or take time for this relationship, or whatever it is. If someone's a true friend, they'll still be around once you have some time available. But basically what I did was my first 9 weeks of my first semester, I was working. The kids, we could leave at 3:30, and I was working till 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 every day, easily. I mean, it's so easy to just work as a teacher. And finally I said, you know what? I'm leaving at 4 p.m. every single day, and that's it. And then that kind of helps you reassess on Sunday. Well, what I chose was Sunday. So I said, every day I'm leaving at 4 p.m. and that's final. And then on Sunday, I'll do everything I need for the week. And it allowed me to, instead of like obsessing over certain things or doing X, Y, and Z, it allowed me to really focus on what I actually needed to do, because I was limiting my time. Decor tips. You do you. Spend as much or as little as you want. Don't make anyone make you feel bad for you spending too much money on your classroom. I'm kind of a shopaholic. And so I'll get a lot of like teasing at my first school, like, oh my God, you shouldn't have spent this money, like almost kind of criticizing me for spending the money on my classroom decor. But my attitude towards it is, if I have the money and this is how I'm choosing to spend my money, that's for me to decide and me to decide only. And it's a space you're going to be in for 8 to 10 hours every day for 10 months. Like, it better look exactly how you want it to. And decor wise, I mean, seriously, do whatever you want. I would prioritize, choose a color scheme and stick to it, and that'll help kind of guide you through all the rest of the decor. Any tips for motivating students who don't seem to care about school? I try and be realistic with them. Be like, look, dude, I get it. Like, this history lesson, it isn't it. Or I know you don't really care. But what you do care about is graduating. And then once you've graduated, you can work a job. And that job doesn't have to have anything to do with this. You could be a welder and making $75,000 a year. So basically, I just try and be realistic and honest. Like, I get it, this isn't your jam, but this is the reason we're doing it. Maybe it doesn't motivate them to be excited about it, but it motivates them to finish it. What is the best, most useful thing you've bought for your classroom? Okay, the most useful thing I have in my classroom is my document camera, 100%. But I didn't buy that. But I also wasn't necessarily given one at my second school right away. Luckily, they did have one available, but it wasn't in my classroom at first. My document camera by far was the best thing ever. I mean, it's so versatile. The most useful thing I bought. I don't know if it's anything. Being a teacher is weird because there's like so many different things you can buy, and buzzers and whiteboards and clipboards and rulers and all these things. But in reality, teachers are some of the most inventive people you've ever met. So I don't really feel like there's one item I physically could not live or teach without besides my document camera. But I would say the most important item for me has changed based on the schools I was at. The first school I was at where the kids didn't have pencils and paper, that would definitely be the most important thing because they didn't have them. At my second school, my most important thing honestly could have been my $12 planner because these students were much more advanced and we moved through stuff quickly and I needed to stay organized. I mean, I don't know. I have such a bad answer. I made a video after my first year, like the best and worst purchases, first year teaching. I want to do another one of those just kind of like as a third year teacher to show you guys what I have used and not used the most. So stay tuned for that. But I don't think there's like one specific thing that I like wouldn't be able to teach without besides my document camera. Is it hard to accommodate all students, IEPs, 504s, disabilities? Yes, it is hard. It's very hard. And legally, you are required to. If you don't know what any of those things are, basically it just means students with disabilities or students with special needs, they're going to have an exact list of what you need to do to accommodate this student. I didn't know what that was because I was changing to become a teacher. So on my first day of school, they're like, you have X many students with a 504. Okay, is that a lunch plan? I don't know. So that was a big learning curve for me. But basically it's like maybe these 10 students have to have a set of your notes handed to them at the start of every class period, or these students are going to take their test in a small group setting. So it is really hard to accommodate those, but you do legally have to. Any advice for shy and quiet future teachers? Be confident. Like, just because you're shy and quiet doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about. So it's so hard because I'm so not quiet. I mean, you guys, you probably have to turn the volume down when I get excited. But don't doubt yourself. So if you're shy and quiet, I think that's totally fine. But you can be shy and quiet and still have clear expectations, consistent rules, and holding your students to a standard. If you're a quieter person, then your classroom environment might be quieter. Like for me, I'm loud and crazy, so my classroom is always really loud and really crazy. For you, that might not be your setting. For me, when I want their attention, I'm hollering, not like yelling at them, but like, okay, wrap it up. But for you, it might be when you hear this bell, ding, it needs to be silent in here. And so you might come up with other tricks. Shyness, you'll get over as you build relationships with your kids. As you work as a teacher, you're going to become more confident in yourself, and you will get over it. I promise. Well, actually, I don't know if you'll get over it, but build those relationships, be confident. I hope this answered your questions. I might have had to split this into 2 parts because I'm looking at the time and it says 47 minutes and I'm not making one whole YouTube video that's 47 minutes long. But if you stuck around all the way to the end, thank you guys so much. The next videos to be expecting in this kind of like back to school or about to start teaching series will be number 1, my best and worst purchases after my second year teaching. I did do it for my first year and I'll link it below. Also look for my favorite things that I put up in my classroom. So I'll walk you guys through like my turn-in system and my handbag system, basically the things in my classroom that have made that space more usable. And I might do a behavior management video. If you guys want to see that, definitely let me know and I'm more than happy to. But thank you guys so much for watching and then I will see you guys next time.